Hello everyone. In this video, we cover the temporary life annuity due. The payments are made at the beginning of each year. Consider an end-year temporary life annuity due. Annual payment of 1. The payments depends on the survival of the individual. That is, the individual will receive an amount of 1 immediately, and then if the individual survives to age X plus 1, another payment until the death of the individual. Say, suppose the individual dies within the end-year period. Say Kx equals K. Then there will be no payment afterwards. The corresponding value of y is a double dot angle Kx plus 1. If the individual dies beyond the end-year period, then the payments of 1 continues, and this is the last payment of 1, as long as the individual reach age X plus n minus 1. And then afterwards, there are no payments. To conclude, if the individual dies within the end-year period corresponds to the event Kx less than or equals n minus 1, then y depends on Kx. Y equals a double dot angle Kx plus 1. And if the individual survives beyond the end-year period, Kx greater than or equals n, then y is a constant at a double dot angle n. All right, so here y is the present value random variable for this annuity, the temporary life annuity due. We have the expression for y. And we have a simplified notation for this. A double dot and an angle with the expression the minimum of Kx plus 1 or n. All right, let's get the expected value of y. Here we sum up the actuarial present value of each individual payment. Therefore, the first payment of 1, the individual definitely received this amount. So the probability of receiving the first payment of 1 is 1. And then the second payment of 1, the probability of receiving this amount of 1 is Px. And the pattern continues until the last payment of 1. All right, so the expected value of y is given by this expression. The actuarial notation for temporary life annuity due, we have a double dot and then x colon angle n. And in summation notation, we have this expression. UK kpx evaluate or sum up from k equals 0 to k equals n minus 1. As mentioned in the previous video, this is a more convenient expression, but this cannot apply to the higher moment. All right, make use of the probability function of Kx using the formal definition of the expectation. If the individual dies within the first year of the policy, then the individual only receives a payment of 1. This corresponds to a double dot angle 1. The probability of having only 1 payment is Qx. And then if the individual dies within the second year of the policy, the value for y is a double dot angle 2. And the probability of receiving exactly 2 payments is Px times Qx plus 1. All right, the pattern continues. All right, the first term corresponds to all the payments here. Sum up the value for y and then times the corresponding probability. We have a double dot angle k plus 1 and then times the probability kpx qx plus k. Not to forget that if the individual dies beyond the end-year period, y is a constant, a double dot angle n. The corresponding probability is npx. So we need to add this term in the expression. And this is for the expected value of y. To get the second moment, we have this expression. All right, let's take a look at an example. For a 3-year temporary life annuity deal, annual payments of 1 issued to an individual at age 80. Given the following life table, and interest rate is 8%. Calculate the expected value of y and the variance of y. All right, here we use the more convenient expression to get the expected value. To receive this $1, the probability is 1. And then if the individual survives to age 81, another payment, the probability of receiving this payment is P80. And then we have this diagram. There are no more payments as long as the individual reaches age 83, because this is a 3-year temporary life annuity deal. All right, the more convenient expression, summation nu to the power k times kp80. Substitute the value for k equals 0, k equals 1, and k equals 2. Upon calculation, we get the expected value for y, 2.2717. The variance. We need to get the expected value for y squared, and we must use the expression using the basic principle. All right, substitute the value for x. X is 80. And kp80 times q, k plus 80, we have this expression. Given the life table, we have L at age 80 plus k minus L 80 plus k plus 1, and then O over L80. All right, k equals 0. Then the corresponding value for y is a double dot angle 1, which is 1. And then the probability. The probability is L80 minus L81, which is 20, and then over L80, 120. This is the first term. And then the next term corresponds to k equals 1. The corresponding value for y is a double dot angle 2. And the probability, the individual dies between ages 81 and 82. So this corresponds to 30. And then over L80. And then the next term, k equals 2. Not to forget the last term, the individual survived beyond age 83. The individual still received 3 payments. Therefore, the value for y is a double dot angle 3. Upon calculation, we get the expected value for y squared. And then from this, we can get the variance of y. Upon calculation, we get the variance 0.4521. The next example. Here we have a special 3-year temporary life annuity deal on a select life at age 30. Given that the annuity payments, the first year, an amount of 2, and then the following year, an amount of 6, the next year, an amount of 10. Interest rate 0.04. Mortality follows the given 2-year select and ultimate mortality table. Calculate the variance of the present value random variable for this annuity. All right, here we establish a PMF table for Y. When Kx equals 0, that is, the individual dies between ages 30 and ages 31, the individual receives an amount of 2. The corresponding value of Y is simply 2. The probability of receiving exactly this payment is Q30. Select life at age 30, so Q30 is 0.1. And then if the individual survives to age 31, but dies before reaching age 32, the individual receives another payment of 6 here at this time point. The value for Y is 2 plus 6 times nu. The probability of receiving exactly 2 payments, a payment of 2 and a payment of 6, is P30 times Q30 plus 1 at select age 30. P30, 1 minus 0.1, we have 0.9. And then Q30 plus 1 is 0.13. And if the individual survives to age 32, then the individual receives all 3 payments. The corresponding value for Y, 2 plus 6 times nu plus 10 times nu squared. As long as the individual reaches age 32, the individual receives all the payments because this is a 3-year temporary life annuity. Therefore, the corresponding probability is P30 times P30 plus 1. And we get here the probability is 0.783. And this is the complete table for the PMF of Y. With this table, then we can get the expected value and the variance accordingly. We have the expected value for Y. Multiply Y by the associated probability and then sum them up. Upon calculation, we get 14.4316. And then the expected value for Y squared, 234.1432. And we can get the variance of Y. And we get the answer, 25.8726. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.